Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know, I always love getting into some fascinating new research, and this time we're diving into a topic that's on fire. Literally.
Oh, I see what you did there.
We're going to be talking about a new system for firefighters called NERIS. And you had mentioned before we started recording that you're really interested in how this is going to impact both urban and rural fire departments.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it looks like we've got a lot to cover.
We do.
You sent over a ton of research briefs, press releases, even some really in-depth research papers on this.
It's a hot topic right now. Lots of interest.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I was blown away by one fact I found right off the bat. Over 650 fire departments wanted to be early adopters of NERIS.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's huge. So clearly there's a lot of excitement surrounding this system. But before we get into all that, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
What exactly is NERIS?
So NERIS stands for the National Emergency Response Information System. And basically, it's a cloud-based system.
Oh.
And it's been designed to completely change how fire departments collect and use data. Think of it as like a total revamp of the old National Fire Incident Reporting System.
Oh, the NFIRS?
Yeah, exactly. NFIRS, which honestly was getting a little outdated.
Yeah, definitely. It was time for an upgrade.
Yeah.
But you said cloud-based. So what does that actually mean for firefighters? Like when they're out there in the field responding to a call?
So it's all about accessibility and real-time information. Imagine a firefighter showing up at a scene and they can just pull up building blueprints right there on a tablet or hazmat information, even live weather data.
Oh, right there on scene.
Yeah, exactly. All from the cloud.
Wow.
And since it's cloud-based, they can access all this from anywhere with an internet connection.
Which is crucial, especially for those more rural areas that might not have the best connectivity.
Exactly. It's a game changer for those departments.
You know, it makes me think about a small rural department responding to, say, a barn fire. They could instantly know if there's livestock inside or hazardous chemicals present.
Absolutely. That kind of information could be life-saving.
And speaking of information, one of the things that really stood out to me in the research was NERIS's ability to integrate data from all these different systems.
Yeah.
Like you've got computer-aided dispatch, CAD, geographic information systems, GIS, even sensors out in the field.
Right, and that integration is actually a key part of what makes NERIS so powerful. I mean, think about it. A fire breaks out in a big warehouse. NERIS can pull data from the CAD system to track the responding units, use GIS data to map out the building's layout, and even tap into sensors that might be monitoring things like temperature and smoke levels inside.
So it's like painting a really dynamic picture of what's happened.
Exactly. It's like having X-ray vision for firefighters.
Okay, but all this data is only useful if you know what to do with it.
Right.
So how does NERIS actually help firefighters make better decisions during those crucial first few minutes of an emergency?
So it allows for much faster and more informed decisions, like take resource allocation, for example. NERIS can analyze all that incoming data to pinpoint which areas are most affected,
Right.
where additional units are needed most urgently, and even predict potential challenges based on things like wind speed and direction.
So whether it's a high-rise fire in a city or a wildfire raging across the countryside, NERIS can help get the right resources to the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
This really is some next-level stuff.
It is.
And there was this quote from Dr. Lori Moore Merrill, the U.S. Fire Administrator, that really stuck with me. She said,
Yeah.
data and the knowledge it contains is, in fact, the lifeblood of the fire service for the future.
It's a powerful statement. I think it really speaks to just how transformative NERIS could be. This isn't just about fighting fires today, it's about understanding and preparing for the fires of tomorrow.
That's what I find so fascinating about this. It's not just putting out fires, it's using data to predict them, prevent them, and prepare for them. So how exactly is NERIS shaping the future of firefighting?
Well, one key area is understanding and responding to these new threats that are emerging. We're seeing a huge rise in fires caused by lithium-ion batteries, especially in urban areas with lots of electric vehicles and devices.
Right.
And these fires are incredibly dangerous. They require really specific tactics.
And we're not just talking about new tech, right? We're also dealing with new challenges brought about by climate change.
Oh, absolutely. Climate change is a game changer.
Yeah, we're seeing more extreme weather events, which is putting a lot of pressure on firefighters, whether they're battling huge wildfires in drought-stricken areas
Right.
or responding to floods in places that have never seen them before.
Yeah, and NERIS is helping fire departments adapt. It can analyze weather patterns and historical data to help predict areas at high risk for wildfires or flooding.
And that kind of foresight is essential, especially in those rural areas that often have limited resources.
Exactly.
You mentioned that NERIS is being rolled out in phases.
Right.
So how are they making sure it works for both large urban departments and those smaller, more rural departments?
Well, the initial rollout includes departments from 48 states, so you're getting a really diverse range of perspectives right from the start.
Okay.
And that ensures the system is being developed with both urban and rural needs in mind.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm a little concerned about potential barriers to implementation.
Yeah.
Departments have different needs, different budgets, different levels of technical expertise.
Those are all valid concerns. But one of the things that makes NERIS so unique is its focus on customization.
Okay.
The system is designed to be flexible so departments can tailor it to their specific needs and resources.
So a small rural department with limited resources wouldn't be overwhelmed by a system designed for a massive city department.
Exactly. The developers are working directly with departments to make sure NERIS integrates smoothly with their existing systems and workflows.
That's good to hear.
And they're also providing ongoing training and support to help firefighters get the most out of the platform, no matter their technical background.
That's great, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to what the firefighters think. Are they actually excited about NERIS?
The response during beta testing was overwhelmingly positive. They loved how easy it was to use, the real-time data, and being able to customize it to their needs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It really seems like NERIS has the potential to be a game changer.
Yeah,
But you know what? I feel like we've only scratched the surface here.
I agree. There's so much more to explore.
Let's take a quick pause to gather our thoughts, and then we'll dive back in with part 2 of our deep dive into NERIS. Stick with us.
You know, when we were getting ready for this deep dive, I was really struck by just how much NERIS is aiming to change.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not just talking about small improvements here. This is a system that could completely change every aspect of firefighting,
It really could.
from training and prevention all the way to response and recovery. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. And it's not just about efficiency either, right?
No.
It's about saving lives, both the firefighters and the people they're trying to protect. That's where the real power of all this data comes in.
Absolutely. And I actually came across a really great example of how NERIS is already making a difference.
Yeah.
One of the research papers you sent highlighted how NERIS data revealed a 30% increase in lithium-ion battery fires in homes over the past year.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, and that led to them developing some targeted safety recommendations specifically aimed at educating homeowners.
Especially seniors who might not be as familiar with the risks of some of these newer technologies.
Right, exactly.
That's fantastic. So NERIS is not just about reacting to incidents after they happen. It's about using data to prevent them from happening in the first place.
It is.
I love that. Now, I know we've talked about some of the technical aspects, but could you give us a little peek under the hood? Like, what's a specific technical feature that really shows NERIS's potential?
Oh, there are so many, but one that really stands out is how it integrates real-time sensor data.
Okay.
So imagine a sensor in a burning building, and it detects a sudden temperature spike. NERIS can actually automatically flag this as a potential backdraft situation,
Now.
giving firefighters on scene an early warning that could save lives. And this kind of real-time analysis just wasn't possible before.
It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It kind of is. It makes you realize how much potential there is to use technology like this to make firefighting safer and more effective.
We've talked about prevention and response. But what about those massive incidents that need a coordinated effort from multiple departments? How does NERIS help with that?
Well, NERIS is really good at facilitating communication and collaboration, especially during those large-scale, chaotic events. By sharing data in real time, different departments, whether urban or rural,
Right.
can work together seamlessly, regardless of what communication systems they're using.
So it's like they're all looking at the same picture?
Exactly, a shared operating picture.
It makes me think back to those wildfires that ravaged California a few years ago. Something like NERIS could have been a game changer in coordinating those efforts.
Oh, absolutely. And this data sharing isn't just limited to fire departments either. NERIS can also be used to communicate with EMS, law enforcement, creating a more integrated approach to emergency response overall.
So it's breaking down those barriers and creating a more unified system.
Exactly.
That's so important when you consider how interconnected those agencies are in a real emergency. And we've talked a lot about the benefits, but are there any downsides to NERIS?
Well, like with any new technology, there are going to be challenges. One concern that comes up a lot is cost.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Implementing a system like NERIS does require an investment in training, infrastructure, ongoing support.
Which could be a big obstacle for smaller rural departments that don't have the same budget as those big city departments.
Absolutely. Access and affordability are crucial if we want to see this technology benefit all departments, no matter their location or resources.
For sure. Are there any other concerns?
Another potential challenge is data security and privacy. I mean, we're dealing with some really sensitive information here. Building plans, medical records, incident reports.
Yeah, it's crucial to keep that data safe.
Absolutely. Making sure all that data is protected from breaches or misuse is paramount.
It's not just about having the technology, it's about building the trust necessary for that technology to be used effectively.
And that trust needs to go beyond the fire service itself. The public needs to be confident that their data is being handled responsibly.
That's a great point. It's really hitting me that we've just barely scratched the surface of all the implications of NERIS.
I know, it's huge.
It's not just a piece of software, it's like a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
A whole new way of thinking about firefighting.
It's pushing boundaries and forcing us to rethink how we approach everything from prevention to training to response.
It's definitely a conversation worth having. And speaking of conversations, I think it's time for us to shift gears and wrap up our deep dive with some final thoughts. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into NERIS, and this has been a really fascinating conversation.
It has. I agree.
So much to unpack.
So much.
Tried to bring it all together for our listeners. If they only remember a few key things about NERIS, what should those be?
Well, first and foremost, NERIS is about data, right?
Okay.
Collecting data, analyzing it in real time, and using that knowledge to inform every decision, from the smallest tactical choice on scene to those big strategic plans.
So data is like the fuel, but NERIS is the engine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes all that raw data and turns it into insights that actually make a difference.
Okay, I like that.
It helps firefighters make faster, smarter decisions, but it also provides those crucial insights that can improve training, resource allocation, and help them address those emerging threats we talked about.
Like lithium-ion battery fires or the risks from climate change.
And then there's the collaboration piece. NERIS helps fire departments, both big and small, urban and rural, share information, not just with each other, but also with EMS and law enforcement.
Absolutely. It breaks down those traditional silos to create a more coordinated response system.
Which is so important in a real emergency. As NERIS continues to evolve, who knows what amazing new features we'll see.
Yeah, the possibilities are exciting.
Pretty mind-blowing to think about. But, even with all this amazing tech, it's important to remember that NERIS is just a tool.
Right. It is.
Still, the firefighters themselves, their bravery and skill, that makes the difference.
Absolutely. NERIS can provide information and support, but it's those firefighters out there on the front lines that truly make a difference.
Okay, last question before we wrap things up. We talked about how NERIS is shaping the future of firefighting, but technology is always evolving.
It is.
So how do you see NERIS adapting and evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a great question. I think we're going to see AI and machine learning play an even bigger role, making NERIS even more predictive and intuitive.
Oh, okay.
Imagine a system that can not only analyze past incidents, but can actually anticipate potential risks and suggest response strategies before anything even happens.
That is next level.
And think about the training aspect. We could see things like virtual reality and augmented reality integrated into NERIS
Oh, wow.
to create these really immersive, realistic training simulations.
It's incredible to think about all the possibilities. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into NERIS. We've just scratched the surface, but hopefully you, our listeners, now have a good understanding of just how impactful this system could be.
I hope so, too.
Big thanks to you for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And of course, a huge thank you to our listeners. If you're interested in learning more, be sure to check out the links to all the sources in the show notes. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.